Welcome, founders, to today's Explainer. Look, if you're joining me today, you're definitely no stranger to high stakes, high pressure, and massive output. You know how to grind. But today, we're actually stepping back from all of that. We're going to look at the very architecture of your drive. We're going to strip away the noise and honestly evaluate the actual operating system you're reinforcing every single day. So, settle in, close those extra tabs, and let's get to work.
I want you to sit with a question for a second. Have you ever reached a goal and just felt absolutely nothing? You fought for it, you sacrificed for it, you finally hit that massive number. And instead of this profound, life-altering satisfaction, you were just met with a strange sense of emptiness?
Okay, let's dive into this strategic blueprint for shifting your operations away from just chasing numbers and toward building true alignment. We're covering 6 concepts today: the performance tax, the hollow milestone, the technical disconnect, the purpose-first filter, high alignment identity, and finally building the sovereign empire. Let's get right into it. Part 1, the performance tax and reframing burnout. Often, as founders, we view burnout as a personal failure, right? Like it's just a sign we need to push harder or maybe just sleep a little longer. But you are likely paying what we call the performance tax. And this isn't your standard run-of-the-mill fatigue from a long day at the office. No, it is the specific kind of exhaustion that comes from running toward a goal you don't actually care about. When you hit these external targets but feel entirely hollow inside, that is the tax. There's a moment in every founder's journey where sheer force of will is simply no longer enough. You hit this wall of fatigue that sleep literally cannot fix, and you start to wonder if the path you're on is even yours to begin with. That brings us to part 2, the hollow milestone and the illusion of more. Let's do a quick clinical autopsy on a hollow milestone. As founders, we usually operate under the assumption that more is always better, but it's a fundamentally flawed business equation. We end up inheriting our definitions of success from the world around us. We push for more reach, more results, more capacity. We convince ourselves that once we hit a certain target and check those boxes, we'll finally feel that peace and security we're looking for. But discovering that the achievement feels completely empty proves a really harsh truth. Numerical growth without any underlying meaning drains you way faster than it sustains you. Moving to part 3, the technical disconnect. This is our core diagnosis. Think about the pure pursuit of financial metrics, chasing a bank balance, believing that a specific number will magically create security in your life. Now contrast that with what we actually crave deep down, which is human presence. It's the ability to be fully present for the people we love, without this crushing, constant sense of urgency hanging over our heads. When you chase a number thinking it's going to somehow buy you presence, you create a massive technical disconnect in your own operating system. True security doesn't come from a bank account, it comes from knowing your work is actually aligned with your soul. So the absolutely crucial realization here is this. If you are feeling scattered or unmotivated right now, I need you to hear this clearly. It is not an issue of willpower, it is not a lack of discipline, it is a disconnect from your purpose. You have to stop and ask yourself the most terrifying question a busy founder can ever ask. What is all this for? You have to strip away the performance and really look at the identity you're reinforcing. Which leads us to part 4, the purpose-first filter. To fix this disconnect, we have to introduce the primary architectural brick required to rebuild your trajectory. Reconnecting with your deeper reason for building wealth literally changes the energy of every single decision you make. What's truly fascinating about this concept is that purpose awareness isn't some soft, feel-good rhetoric. It is actually the ultimate competitive advantage for your mindset, because when you know exactly what your growth is for, the entire energy shifts. Let's look at the exact operational outcomes of finding that human pulse beneath your financial goals. First off, your decisions become dramatically simpler. When you know what actually matters, it is suddenly incredibly easy to say no to what doesn't. Second, your resilience increases. Challenges are no longer these existential threats to your identity. They just become mere obstacles on the path to something you deeply care about. And third, your motivation completely transforms. That crushing pressure to perform, it's entirely replaced by a genuine desire to contribute. Part 5, high alignment identity. This purpose-first filter leads us directly into the transformation phase. Your core operating model fundamentally shifts. You evolve from the striver to the steward. The striver operates entirely from a scarcity mindset, pushing out of fear, constantly trying to prove their worth through metrics. But the steward, when you get clear on the purpose behind your goals, your identity detaches from an arbitrary number and binds to a purpose that actually feels like home. You become an empowered identity. You lead from alignment, inherently knowing your intrinsic value rather than constantly trying to prove it.
But look, true identity work demands quiet honesty. It requires you to look hard at your financial targets and dig until you find the actual human pulse underneath them. This shift we're talking about, it's not about changing your ambitious goals, it's about changing who you are being as you pursue them.
And finally, part 6, the sovereign empire.
Here is the absolute bottom line. You cannot build a sovereign empire on a foundation of just chasing the number. It will crumble under the weight of its own emptiness. To build it right, you need a purpose-first foundation. This means you stop negotiating with your distractions. You start fueling yourself with profound meaning rather than manufactured artificial pressure. Without purpose awareness, wealth is honestly just a heavy, exhausting responsibility. But with it, wealth becomes the ultimate tool for the life you were meant to lead. It's how you trade frantic, scattered urgency for calm, strategic presence.
So, I'm going to assign you some strategic homework today. This is the quiet, honest work required to stop leading out of fear. Step 1, stop pushing, just for a moment. Step 2, look past the numbers to find the actual meaning. Step 3, write down your 3 deepest reasons to grow your financial capacity that have absolutely nothing to do with buying things. Find the underlying heartbeat of your work. Trust me, the clarity you find there will sustain you infinitely longer than any external metric ever could. Now, if you're ready to trade that exhaustion for deep alignment, and if you want a proven way to strengthen this identity work so your wealth becomes a tool rather than a trap, there is a logical next step. Go check out 365freedom.online. It's designed exactly for founders like you who are finally ready to step into true strategic presence. I'll leave you with this one thought. Ask yourself honestly, am I the person who is always chasing? Or am I the person who is actually building something meaningful?